thank you, O King. You're not just a part of my life, but my everything. Your love reaches way down deep within, passes human understanding. There will always be a song for you I'll sing. One word alone just can't express my heart's desire. Gratitude for one more day my needs supply. Your warm embrace and tenderness, patient with me through all my mess. I come to one conclusion: you are the best.
Just a few more minutes, guys. Go ahead and share the video with your followers. Hello guys, welcome back, you lovely butterflies. I'm excited about today. This is gonna be just a quick live. It's not gonna be a long one. Hold on, I'm trying to make sure that I was able to share it so everyone will be able to join us live. So one moment as I share to my page. Okay. I'm not sure if it's showing up or not, but all right. So let's just get into it. So welcome back. I am excited about today's show. We have several questions that we're going to be doing a Q&A session. I'm going to be inviting back Marissa Petit Fair to join with us again today. As well, if you were not able to submit your questions and you do not want to ask it publicly or on the live, you could also go ahead and you could share it. You could go into the, what am I trying to say? It's Friday, guys. Give me a second. You could send your messages to my messenger, if that's what it's called. So send your questions to my messenger. That's what I'm trying to say. Send your questions to my messenger. If you do not want to ask it publicly, I would extract them from the messenger. I will answer them as best as Marissa and I know how. I just want to remind you guys, we are not psychologists. We are not therapists. We're not giving any kind of medical diagnosis to anything. We're just speaking from experience and speaking from what worked for us. So I just want to get that out there before we do continue. Again, please share, please like, please follow, please invite people to watch this Q&A session with me and Marissa. I'm going to go ahead and add Marissa. Marissa, I'm not seeing the video beside you again. Can you try to log out and come back in? And while she does that, let me check my messenger. Listen, guys, the last video that we did, I think it is up to 7,000 views. We had viewers from Liberia. We had viewers from Jamaica, Ghana. Where else do we have viewers from? The UK, just all over, you know. So that was awesome, and I'm really excited about that, especially for it being my first live. Listen, I do understand that a lot of the topics that we speak about is very touchy, and a lot of time people are not ready. Okay, Marissa, I see you, ready to comment or interact publicly. They want to stay invisible, and that's okay with us as well. We do understand that, and anything that you ask on this platform, if it's going to be in our inbox, it will always stay anonymous. We're not here to pull people or to make them do things that they're not comfortable with doing at this moment. Marissa is saying that your video is not working again. Yes, so again, I'm excited about that. You guys, please continue to share, follow. I've been speaking to a few other great women of God that I am preparing to invite them as well on this platform. I'm so excited. I will be announcing them as soon as I finalize the topics and finalize the time and the dates. They'll be able to help me co-host on this wonderful channel. Okay? No, I don't see you now. All right, you guys, bear with us. Okay, just bear with us. I'm telling you, it's going to be good. Okay, just bear with us. It showed up a few seconds ago. I don't know what caused it to go off. Oh, here we go. It is Friday, guys. I am super tired. I'm super laid back today. I haven't been, there you go, Marissa. I haven't been feeling well these past few days. So, ain't no makeup. Ain't no nothing. You just gonna get me raw and in flesh. All you're gonna get is a bit light and glasses. Ah, Marissa, what's going on? The video came on and then it came off. Try your phone, Marissa. Okay, it's saying that you have a video now, so let me try before it comes off. Okay.
All right. Is it working now? You guys can see me okay?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay, good. All right. There we
Hi,
go.
Marissa.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me back, Tanisha. I think we had some really good feedback from the last session. So I'm interested to hear some of the questions that came through. I want to hear what the people has to say. So thank you again for having me back.
Yes, we have a few questions, and let's just get started because we don't have much time and we want to make this video short.
Right.
All right. So somebody said I love your drapes.
Thank you.
Okay. So the first question is, do you still have moments where you remember, or if wait, let me read it properly. Do you still have moments where you remember, and if yes, what can cause or trigger those memories? How do they affect you, and how do you deal with them?
You want me to go ahead and answer that, or do
Go
you?
ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so do you still have moments when you remember the incident? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and how do I handle those moments? I do have moments where I do, it's an event that, as a traumatic event, you don't forget. Sometimes the brain will try and block it out, but once you go through that process, like I was discussing in the last call, you don't really forget the incident. So I do remember. I don't have flashbacks like I did before, but I do remember, specific events and specific times and things that happen. But it doesn't affect me emotionally the same way. It has no effect on me emotionally. I remember it and I continue. You're going to hear my children in the background. Sorry about that. But I specifically pray that I don't forget, because I don't want to forget, because I believe that in remembering it will allow me to help others go through the same type of situation. So I remember it. It doesn't affect me emotionally the same way, because I've gone through the process. I've gone through the healing process. So it doesn't it doesn't have a negative effect on me, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, and I see a few people logging in as well. I do want to remind everyone, if you were not able to join on our last session last week Friday, this we're talking about intimacy after molestation and rape, and so we had a whole hour and some minutes video. If you didn't get a chance to watch that, please go ahead and watch the replay. It is still up. So what we're doing now, we're just answering questions that was sent to us from viewers. And so I don't want anyone to be lost. If you feel like you are lost in any moment, just ask a question, or send a message in the inbox, and we'll try to catch you guys up. So Marissa is speaking about her what is it?
My experience.
Her experience
Mm-hmm.
with molestation and rape, and so we're going back over that, and as well as my experience as well. So the question was, do you still have moments where you remember? And Marissa just answered that. There's one more part in that, Marissa. Do you have any triggers that would trigger the memory of what happened?
Triggers. I don't have. Let's see. Do I have any triggers? I think because of who the person was, when I think of the relationship, then I remember the incident. So I guess that might be a trigger. But I don't have any negative. in the past, when I had to deal with flashbacks, if I had any encounter with a male in that capacity, that would trigger something in me, and then it would create a negative emotion, and that negative emotion will then trigger a flashback. Okay, so that doesn't happen anymore. What happens is, when I think of the relationship that I had with that individual, it will remind me of the incident, and I'll remember remember the event, but it doesn't have a negative impact on me anymore.
Okay. Yes, and I do want you guys to understand we're speaking from stuff that happened in the past, and we're speaking to you guys because we are speaking from a healing place. So, as Marissa rightfully said, as well as myself, I don't have flashbacks anymore. I used to a lot. And at first it became normal to me. It became something that I thought that I would have to live with for the rest of my life. But because I went through that healing process, I really don't have any flashbacks. I do have some triggers, and especially with me and Marissa, we've always been really close. And the person, the person that she was in that incident with was also very close to myself, and I was very close to him as well. And so even when it comes to relationship in that same capacity with other males, I had an issue back then. So anybody that was close, it was a point where I didn't really trust males at all, whether they're close to me. I always felt like they had some kind of, if they kissed me or hugged me, I felt, that, okay, what if they're feeling this way about me? But now I don't really go through that because I allowed myself, that's Isaiah.
I'm sorry, guys.
It's okay, we're all mommies. We went through that healing, and that's where I want you guys to get to. I want you guys to get to a place where you are healed, so the event won't be so traumatic for you.
Right.
It'll be easier for you to move on with your life. It'll be easier for you to experience other things, because these things will cause you not to experience the or the entirety of life, or even go the extent of what you're capable of doing, because you're restricted by the trauma that this has caused. All right, so here's number 2. How do you go about approaching a spouse if you are having issues with intimacy as a result of molestation or rape?
How do you go about approaching your spouse about the incident? Well, like I said in the last event, in the last session that we had, it's important to let your spouse in on what's going on. It's important to explain to them what you're going through emotionally, because whether you believe it or not, or whether you think, because a lot of times we feel like we're hiding these things, and it's not. It's manifesting in the physical. So the way you speak, the way you walk, the way you act, the way you think, all of it it affects all of that. And so it's important to let your spouse or your partner know what's going on, because of course they're thinking something is going on, but they don't know what it is. So the best thing to do is just to sit them down and to explain to them that you have something that's very important to you that you want to discuss, and it's just difficult for you to speak about it, and hopefully your spouse or your partner will understand and love you enough to allow you to take as much time as you need to try and explain what has happened, or what emotional issues you're going through, or what you're going through on a regular basis. So take as much time as you need. You don't have to come out fully and feel pressure. There shouldn't be any pressure in trying to explain what happened. You don't have to really go into details if you don't want to. But just let them know that, hey, honey, listen, there's an event that happened when I was when I was whatever age, and it's affecting me emotionally, it's affecting me psychologically, and I think I'm at the point in my life where I want to go ahead and seek help, and I just need your support. Something as simple as that to begin with. I think that should be fine. And then seeking help, like I said,
Oh, we lost Marissa. Let me go ahead and invite her again. Araya?
Sorry
Araya?
about that. I don't know. Yeah, sorry about that.
It's fine.
So like I said before, I definitely believe in seeking help. Psychologist, psychiatrist, a counselor, a therapist. Seek professional help, but allow your partner to come in and kind of understand what you're going through emotionally through the process.
Yes. You see, my situation was a bit different. I got married, not telling anybody. At the time that I got married, nobody knew that. Marissa. Marissa. Araya, come here, baby. Help me again. You know what? I have a better idea. I'm sorry. I'm trying to charge my phone. Hey, plug. Give me this thing. I'm sorry, guys. Let me try to charge my phone for it. Give me the computer charger for me, please. Okay. Like I said, I got married before I exposed my truth. So my husband didn't know. My husband didn't know what had happened to me until we were well into our second child. We were well into years of marriage already. So he didn't know, and that kind of did something to our marriage. He was not happy about it when he found out. He felt like he was basically sleeping with a stranger. He felt like we were supposed to be best friends. And, I held that from him. So it started a lot of issues when it came to that. And that was a bit hard for me because at that time I was coming out. And then I was also having this issue between me and my husband that I felt like he was supposed to, help me. But at the same time, I couldn't blame him because it was his truth. Because at that time, men, they want to protect you. And then to hear that their wife has been hurting for all these years, and when it comes to me and my husband, we've been together since high school, and so this something that has happened, I've never exposed that to him, that hurt him, so I would recommend when you go into, and I think that's another question that we're going to answer as well. Sorry, having a whole bunch of issues going on here. Yeah, that's another question we're about to answer. But I do recommend, if you're going into a relationship, and this relationship, and you feel like this relationship is going to lead into marriage, then okay, we lost Marissa again. That is something that you do need to go ahead and expose to your spouse right away, so you guys will be able to grow together and experience that together. So it won't seem as if you're going through something and he doesn't know, or you're secretly going through something and he doesn't know why you're acting this way. He doesn't know, why you're saying things or reacting that way, or why you feel that way in certain situations. You should really go ahead and expose that right away, because it's going to make a big difference. It's going to make a big difference long term in the relationship, and that's one of the mistakes that I didn't do. And at the same time, I didn't understand it as well, and I didn't remember too, because I blocked it out. I blocked it out and act like it never happened, and I felt like that was something that would never come up again. I felt like it was something that I would never have to talk about. I'll never have to experience everything, And then in my husband's head, he's like, this is why you've been acting this way. This is why you've been doing this. This is why you don't like, certain type of things. But yeah, let me go to that question. I think, let me find it. Someone asked a question that pertain to that. Let me see if I can find it. I think the question goes, when should you, let me see. Do you tell your boyfriend or girlfriend, or when do you tell your boyfriend or girlfriend, or should you keep it until that's your fiance or spouse? That was the question.
Okay. Well, I told my husband when he was my boyfriend. I ended up, confiding in him because I felt comfortable enough to do that at the time, and he made me feel comfortable enough to do that at the time. So I did tell him, not right when we started dating, but I did tell him, when things started to get serious, because I knew that at some point, or I felt that at some point it would come up. So I just went ahead and told him, and basically, let him decide, because at the time I felt like, kind of makes you feel like you're damaged goods in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the truth. And so I wanted to tell him, and it was just kind of, okay, I'm going to tell you this, and if you want to stay, you could stay. If you want to go, you can go. That was the kind of attitude I had about it. And it just ended up, what it did was, for us, because of where we were in our relationship, it ended up bringing us closer together.
Okay.
So he was my boyfriend at the time.
Yeah, I do agree as well that especially if you're going to, especially if you feel as if this is going to lead into a long-term relationship, or it is leading into marriage, that it is very important that you talk it out. I believe this, even though this is not a marriage live, I believe that there's a lot of issues that, if you're entering into marriage, if you're entering into a long-term relationship, there's a lot of issues that you need to speak about, and that is one of them. Especially things that are life, that could form your life, or form your personality, or form how you raise children, how you deal with finances, all those things. We don't talk about. We think that we're, that our spouse are supposed to read our minds. Our spouse are not mind readers.
Exactly.
They're not mind readers. And so we do have to speak. We have to talk. We have to tell them what's going on in our mind. We have to talk about past things. It could be even, to us, we might think that it's small, or we think that it's not going to bring anything tremendous to the relationship, but it really does, because we have to understand that every little building block make up who we are.
Exactly.
So it doesn't matter if you fell, down 3 flights of stairs. It's still important, because that could be very well why you limp. It happens. There's a defect that it caused. There's a saying that to every action there's a reaction. I think that's what it is. So to every action, to every event that happens in your life, there's always a reaction. There's always something, whether it's a good reaction or a bad reaction. And that's how every experience in our lives happens. So no matter what it is, guys, if you're going into a marriage, if this is leading into marriage, you need to talk about it. Talk about it. And don't wait until this is your husband and you guys are having issues, and then you're in front of a therapist and your marriage is on the verge of divorce, and then you're bringing up stuff that you should have talked about the first time around. Don't wait until then.
Right. You know what? When my husband and I were getting married, we went to a church there in Florida, and one of their requirements was that we had to go through a few weeks of it was supposed to be a few months, but we were so close to the date. One of the requirements that we had to go through marriage counseling, and at the time we just thought it was super ridiculous to have to go through that. We're like, okay, we already know we don't need to go through any kind of counseling. We just want to get married. But in the long term, we ended up really appreciating the sessions, because it brought up so many questions that we just hadn't discussed. We talked all the time, and we still do, but we didn't bring up finances. We didn't discuss, the effects of a credit score, on a relationship, debts coming into a relationship, how many children we wanted, and how we were going to raise our children, and where we wanted to live, and how our parents played a part in our relationship. All of those questions, and so many more questions just came up in those sessions that we would have never thought of discussing, because we didn't know it was an issue. We were young, and you don't really know what it takes to enter. Like you said, this isn't a marriage session, but you don't really know what it takes to enter into a covenant agreement like that until you enter into that agreement. You know, then you realize
It's not a
this
game.
is yeah, this is not a game, right? And so so I definitely agree that if you think that this relationship is going to the next step in, you know, even you know, even if you're not thinking, okay, marriage is right around the corner, but this is getting serious, definitely start, you know, talking to them and opening up that dialogue with your partner.
All right. So here's the next question: is how do you help? How do you help your spouse, girlfriend or boyfriend, family members or friends deal with it? Basically, and they put in quotations, you're hurting, but how do you help them cope with your hurt?
You don't. That's not your job. That's not your job to do. And that was something that that I found myself, because I was because I that's just my character.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of who I am. So I try to make sure everybody's okay, not realizing that I'm the one who was the victim in the situation. And so I started reaching out to people and explaining things and trying to make sure that everyone else was okay, and realizing that no one was caring for me in the process, not even myself. And so it's not your responsibility to make sure everybody's okay. Let them handle themselves. It's your responsibility in that type of situation to make sure that you're okay. You know, to make sure that you seek the help for yourself. And really, it might sound hard, but let them deal with them. You have to go through your process. You have to get back to a stable situation. And so deal with you first. Deal with you first and let them deal with themselves.
That's right.
That's my advice. That's my
That's
advice.
right. That would be mine too. That is absolutely right. I'm not like Marissa. I'm very harsh. I'm very rough around the ends. I'm very blunt, and I'm not nice and calm, and she's everything that I'm not. I guess that's why we function so well together. I'm very rugged. I'm very, she's very sweet and nice. I'm just not. But that is one of the things that I found myself trying to do as well. Is I try to explain my way out of a lot of stuff. And I also, and I guess it's just something that's instinct with us, I guess, because we're mothers. I don't know, or we women are emotional, but we always want to make sure that everybody's okay. Even when we are, at our wits' end, we're always trying to fix, and we're always trying to,
care
and it's
for.
not good.
Yeah.
It is not good. You end up hurting yourself. You end up,
right.
I remember I was speaking with somebody, and it was on a different topic, and I said that what I realized that I started to do is that I would be hurt, and say, for instance, I had 100% heart, and I get hurt, and so now I'm functioning on 90% of my heart. And what I began to do is instead of healing 100% again, I start learning how to function off of the percentage of what's not damaged. So I get hurt again, so now I'm functioning off the 80% of my heart. Then I get hurt again, and then I'm functioning off of 50% of my heart, and now I'm not healed because I taught myself how to cope with just 50% of a heart.
Right.
And so we're believing that we are healed, or we believe that we're loving wholly, but it's impossible to love wholly when we're only functioning off of 50% of our heart. So we have to make sure that we are healed before we try to make anybody else healed. And a lot of times people try to be selfish and try to turn their self into victims. You never told me, so now am I now supposed to help you out because you just never told me, or you should have told me that this was happening, or I came to you years ago and asked you and you told me that it didn't happen, and so now they become the victim and I become like the villain. Yeah. And so I had to be like, no. This is my hurt. I have to own back my hurt, if that makes sense. This is mine. And so you can't help other people sculpt their lives. They have to be the sculptors and the artists to their own life, and you have to make sure that you paint your own story. Yes. So I do agree with Marissa in that. All right, so I'm going to the next question. I have one question that I think I'm gonna save for last, because okay. Are you All right. Are there specific things you have to do to maintain your healing, or once you have healed? Wait, let me make sure. Are there specific things you have to do to maintain your healing, or once you are healed, that is?
That's it.
Yeah. That's
Okay, I think I understand the question. Do you have to maintain your healing, or once the healing process is completed, you're just done? That's basically what the question is, you think?
Yeah, I think.
Okay, so it's a process. Like I was explaining in the last video, it's a process that just never ends. Because you have to be mindful, you have to be purposeful in everything that you do on a regular basis, because going through something like that affects so many different parts of your life. There's so many moving variables. You have to every single day of your life is going to be a process. You're going to be in the process of healing. One of the things we discussed in the last video, your life basically comes to a halt at the time the trauma happened. So for me, it was at 5 years old. And so from the time I was 5 up until I actually started the healing process, which was about 28 years old, really. Um, um, I had to undo so many years of issues, so many years of emotional trauma. And so going forward, I have to continuously be mindful of how I react to certain things. And just be mindful of my healing process and allowing myself to go through the process. And so once you're healed, it just doesn't stop there. It's a continual process. You'll be healed. Like, I'm healed, I'm delivered, I'm healed of the incident. But like I said, the trauma affected how I think about things and how I see situations. And so I'm mindful of that. And so on a daily basis, one of the things we discussed last week, I think it was last week, you said you have to, I think you mentioned, Tanisha, you have to be mindful that you are purposely loving your husband on a daily basis. Right. And so it's the same type of thing where I have to be mindful of how I treat my children, make sure that I'm not being overbearing or overprotective because of the incident. I have to be mindful of how I treat people around me, how I see certain situations, how I interact with certain things and certain people. And so the process is continual. The process is continual even after the healing has completed, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Absolutely does.
Okay.
Absolutely does. And I don't have to go back over what she said, because I totally agree with what she said. It's a ongoing thing. It's you are all in life, period. You always find ways to better yourself.
Right.
So it's you never stop growing. You never stop maturing. So on top of that, you're growing. On top of that, you're maturing. On top of that, you're moving forward to become a better you. And that's all that it is. You just become a better you. Okay, so as if you guys see me looking down constantly, I'm also monitoring the page for other messages that might come through. So that's why I'm always looking down. So I am listening. I am paying attention. I'm just trying to make sure I don't skip any. Okay, is there ever a time that you found yourself going back to some behaviors that you previously exhibited towards your spouse? That's a good question.
Do you ever repeat that? I'm sorry.
Is there ever a time that you found yourself going back to some behaviors that you previously exhibited towards your spouse?
Yes. Do you want to start answering that question?
Yeah. I guess it's the same thing that we're reiterating. Again, this is an ongoing process. It is something that you are going to always have to deal with, because they are men, and they just do men stuff. And because we're emotional, and everything to us is about how we feel, and so if they do something to hurt us, if we feel like they're hurt, they did something that we felt like they should have known better, type of thing, it will bring back any type of behavior, because the same behaviors that you may exhibit is the same behaviors that you exhibited when you're pissed off. So it's all, it's, of course, and again, you just have to be mindful of how you behave, how you treat your husband in any type of capacity, whether you experience a trauma or not. You really have to be mindful, because we feel like because they're men that they don't have certain feelings, but they actually have more feelings that they don't expose. So if you think about it, they're the ones that's hurting more than us, because they're living their death daily without speaking it. So if they're living it and they're not able to speak it because they feel like they always have to be strong, for us, strong for the family, strong financially, strong in all this capacity, and then we are making them, we're requiring them that they, that the strength has to be there, or we're not going to be attracted to them. We just have to be mindful how we treat them, period. And I don't know any other way. I don't know, maybe you could be more articulate in that, Marissa.
Well, I agree with what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying. I think you just have to be mindful. There are going to be times where if you are in a relationship, that you will exhibit some of the same type of emotions towards your spouse or your partner. But one of the things I kind of want to touch on is, so the question is, do you find yourself exhibiting the same type of relationship, the same type of emotion towards your spouse, behaviors towards your spouse that you've done before, right? That was the question. And so I want to make sure that if you're asking prior to you, as you're going through the process, or as you're going through the healing process, if before you get to the healing portion of it, you're emotionally, you're going to go through ups and downs. You're going to go, and so that's why it's important to communicate that to your spouse, so they understand and they go through that process with you. And so you will be exhibiting some things towards them. Now, after you go through the healing process, and if you find yourself, after healing, or after that process has taken its course, and you find yourself retracting into certain behaviors, you have to be mindful of that too. If you see yourself retracting into, closing back up into a cocoon, then and then that creates a reaction to your spouse or your partner, just be mindful of that, because that should not happen. Not as you go through, you know what I mean? And so you have to be mindful of that too. So I kind of wish I had a little bit more clarification on the event. But you will.
They did put in quotations, lack of affection.
Lack of affection. Mm-hmm. Oh. Okay. Okay, so I don't want to get too deep, because there's so much with that. There's so much with that. So I would suggest that if it's that type of situation, I guess my opinion would be to allow your therapist to bring in your spouse to discuss the incident, because I think there can be so much to be said about that.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. I do believe that. Hold on, my daughter's saying excuse. Yes. I cannot hear you. I can't hear you. One moment. I'm coming. Yeah, so, yeah, I do also believe that when it comes to affection, us as women in a whole, our affection is based on how we feel emotionally. Like, unlike men, you just have to touch them or kiss them and they're good to go. But if we're not, if we're emotionally not there, then our affection towards them, period, it doesn't even have to do with rape or molestation. Our affection towards them could be zero. So, you know, we do have to be mindful that our emotions play a big part in our daily activities, especially our daily behaviors to our husband.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we have a headache, that affects the way we behave to our husband. If we're not feeling well, if the children are getting on our nerves, that affects. Did I do something wrong? Hold on, guys. Okay. I don't know how to use my phone. Okay. If with our husband, that affects as well how we deal with our husband as well. So
Right. Right. Which is why it's important to communicate. You know, it's important to keep the lines of communication open between yourself and your spouse or your partner, so that they can kind of go through the journey, you know, with you.
All right. So we just have a few more questions. Let's just go through it. Did I read this already? Are there specific things that you have to do to maintain your healing once? Okay, I did. All right. So what would you say to someone who acknowledges there is an issue but not sure on what to do next?
When they acknowledge that there is an issue but they're not sure what to do next?
Yeah, they're a victim.
And they're the victim. Okay, so we kind of touched on that on the last session that we had, and so we kind of went through the process of how to start the process, right? And so if you've gotten to the stage where you have acknowledged that there is an issue, the next step is to seek help.
Yes.
That is the next step in the process, is to seek professional help. Once you seek the professional help with a therapist or psychologist or psychiatrist, then that person, that professional, can then help you with the communication portion of it, help you with explaining it to your spouse or your partner, explaining it to your close family members. That professional is trained to do that, and so that would be my suggestion, is to take it to a professional, seek professional help.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And we do want to make sure that you guys understand that everybody's process is not the same.
Exactly.
Everybody road to healing, it is not the same. We exhibit, it takes different stuff to break us, So and it takes different processes and different techniques to get us to a place where we feel like we've totally been delivered and helped through this traumatic event. All right. Do you still believe there is still true healing for someone after molestation or rape if there was a child resulting in the person's life? And how would that healing process be the same in this case? So basically, they were raped and now they have a child for the rapist.
And so the question is, do you feel that there can be truly healing even if a child is produced through the trauma? Wow.
I'm just looking at you like, go ahead.
Wow. Okay. I'm a little hesitant on touching on that topic, only because we're speaking from experience on this platform, and I don't have experience with producing a child through trauma. But I will say this. I will say that I do absolutely 100% believe that it is possible to heal even after producing a child through trauma. I've gone through trauma. I've gone through multiple traumas, and I'm in a place in my life now where I'm completely healed. So to say, so I'm basically the witness here to say, yes, there is a possibility to go through trauma and to be healed if you're willing to allow yourself to go through that. To speak on the part of producing a child, I think what that, this is just my thought. I'm not a professional here. I'm not, it's just my thought. What I believe the child does is a physical representation of the trauma.
Yes.
It's basically, you know, all of those emotions manifested in the physical. And so, which brings on so much more things attached to it, because in, do you love that child the same, or can you allow yourself to love the child through all of that? And so those are questions I can't answer, because I'm not a professional. But I do believe that you can be healed, and that it's possible if you allow yourself to go through the process of healing, and if you seek professional help, because a professional can really help you and that child and your family, get back to a place, I don't even want to say normalcy, because I don't think there's a such thing, but get back to a stable place.
That's absolutely right. I myself as well have no experience personally in that. I do know a few people who have, had a child, raised a child by their rapists. And, back in the days, that was a normal thing, because even though I'm totally against abortion, but abortion wasn't, they didn't do that back in the days. They didn't do that in my mom's era and that age back then. So abortion now is very recent in the upcoming years, particularly. So a lot of those victims back then carried their children, and a lot of them are our age, and they were able to do it. So, and I'm not saying that there won't be any kind of reluctancy or any kind of issue, or I do also believe in healing. I do also believe in total healing. I believe it is possible for you to
Absolutely.
receive the gift of healing. You just have to be able to accept that. Now, as Marissa said, that child is now a physical representation of something that happened to you. And just as it is a process, and just as it is a daily, it takes daily efforts to make sure that